Hello, welcome to our video on purchasing in D365 Business Central. I'm Telka Clem, and I'm your host for today. I am one of the pre-sale solution architects here at Western Computer. As we start thinking about purchasing inside of Business Central, certainly there can be various ways of creating the demand that would create the need to purchase something. We're going to talk about that today as we start looking at how we would plan for those purchases. We're going to create some purchase orders and then receive inventory from those purchase orders and talk about some options when it comes to that. But let's talk about demand first and how we go about, deciding what it is we need to purchase. So really understanding the core logic behind the procurement really ensures us the ability to optimize our inventory and make sure that we're not late when we're trying to either deliver to customers or make product or anything along those lines. Business Central is very good at monitoring the factors that predict these needs. You're going to hear some wording from me today, and I just want to level set what that is. So first off, it will be demand. When we're talking about demand inside of Business Central, we're talking about customer sales orders, forecasted demand. Maybe we've created some forecast on what we know we may need in a season of our business. Production requirements, whether it's full-blown production or assembly orders as well. Minimum stock levels that are on the item cards and how we want to provide for those levels, projects, and any need we might have on service orders. So all of those will combine as we start looking at the demand. Our MRP is then going to compare that demand against what we already have on order. Do we have any existing purchase orders that have product on them? Are those purchase orders either late or do they have enough quantity on them? Any pending transfers that may not have happened through our warehouses yet? Expected production output from production orders and also expected assembly output from assembly orders. The bottom line is that Business Central is going to look at that demand. If it is greater than the supply on order, BC is going to suggest fulfilling that. And if our item is a raw material or something we sell directly from a supplier, then we are going to get a recommendation to create a purchase order for that item. So let's jump into Business Central and see what this looks like. Certainly, if you've attended any other of my videos or some other videos that might be out there, you've heard me talk about the role center. This is a role center that I use quite often called a business manager role center. And it gives me really a nice overview of everything that's going on. Certainly, always note that Power BI can be embedded inside of your role centers and also throughout the system so that you can watch the things on Power BI reports that you're looking for. Also, as we're talking about demand, don't forget that Copilot is actually inside of Business Central. We're seeing so much help from AI now, whether that's Copilot or Claude. BC now has an MCP server that can be attached to M365 or Claude. So you can use your preference, and that's as of the date that I'm talking. It may very well get larger and larger opportunities as AI continues to grow for us. Let's start at our planning worksheet where we are going to want to prepare a plan for all of the demand that we have inside of the system. Business Central will create a master production schedule for those that are doing production planning inside of Business Central, as well as a material requirements planning outlook. So You can turn both of these on as you're looking to plan, the needs of your system. I can tell you that if you do plan a production order and there are raw materials you need to purchase for that, this worksheet will also recommend the purchase of your raw material need. So it's a very detailed and encompassing piece of logic that drives the planning around our planning worksheet. Now, the starting and ending dates can be for whatever you're wanting to plan. And as we were mentioning earlier, you can add forecast. So if you have a forecast for 2026 and you want to include that, you can certainly add that forecast in being able to calculate the need that is here inside of Business Central. Now, I've already done our calculations, so I will just come back to the worksheet and I want to call out some things. Now, in my demo environment, you are noticing that I have a lot of emergencies and attentions. As a purchasing department or a procurement department, you would not likely have this many warnings. You will note my dates are older, so therefore I'm getting some emergency concerns. You do have start and ending dates that we need to make sure that we get this product either purchased or produced. You're seeing the purchases, production orders, transfer orders, and I also can come down in and find the assemblies. So it is a full looking at the full demand versus what we already have planned. Certainly you've got your item number that we're going to want to order, the quantity around that. And then as we're looking at purchase orders, we would want to be able to choose a vendor number. Now we can default that vendor from the item card. You also can have a list of vendors that are associated with this item. So it does not require that you use just a single item. You may actually supply from 3 or 4 items for specific items. Now, I'm going to go ahead and filter on my vendor 4000, and you are going to notice that I actually need product from this vendor in 3 different locations. So I can handle that as well as we plan. We can plan in as many locations as we need. Now, I will tell you that my Providence warehouse is a very simple warehouse. It does not require warehouse receiving or picking, anything along those lines. Our main warehouse has WMS turned on, the full-blown WMS. Just to note that Business Central is the only small to mid-market ERP system that has full-blown warehousing built into it. You do not need additional license, and you do not need an additional app to run the warehousing inside of Business Central. I'm going to go ahead and accept the 3 messages or the 3 purchase orders that I want to create for this vendor. And I'll come over here and do what we call a carry out action message. Now, certainly we've talked about production and assemblies being part of this, but what we're looking at is our purchase order. We're going to go ahead and make those purchase orders. You could send it to a requisition worksheet. Whereas if you have a very large purchasing department, you may have people that work on certain vendors. So as we are looking at the purchase order that we just created, we can see those 3 locations, shipping locations, then shared with our vendor. Now, we don't have a cost here. That would have defaulted in from price list if we had those price lists created. So let's say that this is $8 and let's just go ahead and put this one at 15. We can negotiate that pricing with our vendors and then enter it here. And then you are able to send these out via email to your vendors. Now let's look at what we've got. We certainly have a type of item and our number. If you need variance, you're going to be able to use variance here inside of Business Central. We've got a description. There's our location code of those 3 different warehouses that we need them to ship to. And then our units of measure along with the quantity, our pricing. But as we scroll over here to the right, you're going to notice that we've got these fields: quantity to receive, quantity received, quantity to invoice, and quantity invoiced. Only our top line that belongs to our Providence warehouse has a quantity to receive. That is because it is not a MS location. When I have a non-warehouse location and the receiving is turned off, I will receive an invoice against the purchase order itself. If my locations have warehousing turned on, I will want to create a warehouse receipt for those locations. So I'll go ahead and create a warehouse receipt. Now, the warehouse can do this as well as someone working with the purchase order, but you will note that I have created 2 warehouse receipts, one to Frontier and one to Maine. Now, you may be asking, why would I want to do this, or what is the difference? The difference really is if you just want your warehouse concerned about the receipt of the quantity only. You don't want them to see pricing. You don't want them to see the entire PO. You just want them to be able to receive the quantity when it comes in the warehouse. Also, if you have any desire to use handhelds in the warehouse, the handhelds from InsightWorks, which is an app available for Business Central, extends this functionality out to a handheld. Now, we do not need an app for the WMS. Remember, I shared with you that Business Central has full-blown warehousing built into it. All InsightWorks is doing is extending that functionality that is inside of Business Central onto the handhelds so that you can do the receive here. But you do need warehousing turned on in order to do that. I'll just do it here and tell the system that I want to receive 10. Or hey, let's just say we're going to receive 8, and we're actually going to put the date out a few days so you can see what that does to our purchase order. I'll now post this receipt, and it will take us back to our purchase order. You can see I have received 8. I've got 2 remaining. And now we'll go back to the purchase order and actually refresh this. We'll go look at 206, and you'll be able to see that I have received 8 of that product into the main warehouse. Now, the nice thing here is I am able to link with one click to the receipt document that the warehouse created. If they needed to take pictures, if there was anything damaged, or you just want some sort of proof of receipt, with those scanners that they can take pictures and it would be attached to the receipt itself. Now, if we're not using warehousing, I can go ahead and just receive against a purchase order. I can also invoice against that purchase order if I want to. But let's say we received 25 of these. So I'm going to post and tell it only to receive. This would be the way the warehouse would do it if they are receiving in a location that does not have WMS turned on. They can just receive against the PO. Now, I will add that with the role centers, you can limit the fields that the warehouse is seeing from the purchase order. Maybe you want to take the line amounts out and some of the other information that you do not want them to see. You can do that as well. So that's very easy to do for a management team to create a role center for your warehouse. So it's not necessary to have WMS turned on if you want to limit that view. It's just they will need to come into the PO and receive against that product. Or they've received against it, then that purchase order will stay around until such time as accounting receives an invoice from the vendor. They can then receive that invoice and reopen the purchase order, enter the vendor invoice number, and be sure that they are telling the system how much they want to invoice. Make sure that the amounts match for that invoicing amount, and then they would post to create the liability for accounts payable. I hope this has just been a quick review for you of what purchasing looks like inside of Business Central. Be sure and check out the accounts payable video to then see how payments are made against those liabilities. And we look forward to having you at some of our other webinars and videos. Thank you.